Mr. Wenzel, good to see you, brother.
Richie,
How are you?
Good.
What have you been up to? Nothing much. Same shit.
Real estate and police work.
Police work. So let's get into that. That's what this is going to be mostly about today. Is police and old times. I know you got a bad memory, but we'll get through it. It should be funny because you do have quite a bit of funny stories. From what I remember. So let's start. 1992 it was?
Yeah, 1992. 6/30/92.
6/30/92, right? We go to the academy.
Yep.
Me, you, and Spags meet.
Yep.
Remember fucking Spags?
DARPA.
But he was PD at the time.
Yeah, oh yeah, we were the housing guys.
We were
That's right,
housing
yeah,
guys. It was me, you, and Spags were the housing guys. I was 66. You were
67 or 68.
67, or Spags was 60.
Spags was with me.
He was with you?
Yeah, he was in my class.
He was in your classroom. And who was your teacher?
Sullivan was that's the main one. I think
had
it was
Lane.
Sullivan.
And I had Lane, Broderick, and the little.
Was Broderick the gym guy or no?
No,
That little
guy. Broderick was the social science guy. Where that was a classic. That fucking class. We were talking about this.
Social science was there so that the dummies could get
Get past,
grades up.
That's right.
Including me.
Everyone got 100
You
in
get like
social science.
a 50 in law, you get 100 in social science, you're good.
You're good.
You pass.
Yeah, you had to pass with a 50, right? And then, Stokes was my law teacher.
Yep.
Was my law instructor, but talking about Chris DARPA, two of the funniest stories that I can remember where Chris was sitting in social science, and Broderick says, "There's going to be a time when you come across bugs." And DARPA's fucking tapping the table, and he goes, "DARPA, what do you want to say?" And DARPA gets up and screams, "I don't like bugs. I don't like them. I'm not doing this." And Chris Broderick turns around and goes, "All right, everybody except for DARPA has to go into these places that don't have bugs." DARPA sits down and he goes, "Thank you." He goes back. So I got you. And then DARPA says to him, "Can you sign a card saying that I don't have to deal with that?" Fucking, he was nuts. And then graduation with DARPA. I'm sure you remember this when we're sitting there. He goes up on stage with the little instructor, and he fucking, who am I, with his arms out? With
yeah. He kneeled down. He put the sneakers in front of his knees.
That's right. With his hands
Arms up.
arms up, and put them out and go. And then as they're doing the questions, oldest ride in New York. And DARPA raises his hand, and they called on him, and they said, "Yes, DARPA." And he goes, "Amato's mom." That was the fucking best. 3,000 guys, and they put us all together, which is great. A lot of good guys came out of that academy, too. But where'd you get assigned to after that? PSA?
PSA 6. Right to PSA 6.
And what'd you do there?
We were, it was pretty good. The NYPD guys, they went out and they got a foot post for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
We went, and I think, matter of fact, I was in the day tour.
Oh, you got days?
RMP, like right off the bat, day tour RMP.
Wow.
And I did that for a solid year, and then I went into the PCO because the PCO, the Project Community Officers, you had either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, Monday off. You picked, and you made your own hours. That's how it was. You did a schedule,
So was that like not community affairs? That would have been like
no, Project Community just meant
community policing.
Yeah,
CPU?
in the housing bureau, in the housing police department, it was the same as CPOP, I guess.
I guess,
but I don't even know if CPOP was out then. I don't even remember.
Okay.
But
who was our chief back then? Taylor, right?
Taylor, and who was that big? Well, they were both pretty big.
Taylor was a big man.
There was another Taylor, and then there was an Irishman. I can't remember his name. So I'd submit a schedule like 2 weeks before the month. I could do it. Only thing you had to do, I think, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m.s.
Two of them.
Yeah, you had to do two of them. But I mean, I'd say, hey, I want to do a 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It was fine. They didn't care. And
so you do them on your last one. I mean, your first one.
Yeah,
right? You would usually do them on your first one back.
Yeah. You figure out when to do, when to do this. You want to do on your first one is 6 to 2. So then you just. And
then you finish.
You
off
hope
for
you
the
don't get a
midnight.
collar on the 6 to 2 because you're going to be processed until 4 or 5 in the morning, and you got to be back at 7 or 8 to go to court, you know.
Unless you went around if you went downtown and you got on the bus or whatever, the prisoner van, right?
Yeah, well, then you're,
then?
you know, doing escorts and that.
That's right.
You know, guys disappear for 2 days doing that. You know?
That's great. That
Yeah,
right there.
they stopped, maybe 2-3 years on, they stopped that. You know, guys literally would go down there and you could do escorts while you were waiting to draw up your case, and they do 48 hours. They go to a hospitalized prisoner, sit there with him for 2 days, wouldn't call the command, nothing. Finally, like, wait, what happened to this guy? So,
I remember sitting down in Central Booking on the benches in the Bronx. You were in Manhattan, so you had it easy, I think. In Bronx, we were slipping on benches. We didn't really have escorts. Not on the midnights. We just went around because we finished our tour, then had to go back for the day tour and process our collars. So when I was working midnights, it was great. 6 to 2s, you got off, and then you had to go back. But as a midnight guy, you went out, then you hopefully picked up another collar so you and your partner could hang out down in court.
yeah.
Remember
a
me and Frankie?
lot of guys usually, I got one, you got to get one, and we go,
Yeah, so we got to get together, and that one's usually a sleeper, and 6 in the morning, you're getting a sleeper, so you no ID on them, and
they're going through.
You're going through the system.
You pick the right one, no DAT.
Yeah, no DAT, and if you didn't, poof, right out. If you did have ID or something. But I actually brought that to PD when I lateraled over. They never heard of like sleepers.
Oh yeah, they didn't do anything.
They didn't do drugs, and they didn't do
anything.
sleepers.
Forget about crack pipe and trespassing, and
right.
Unfortunately or fortunately, how you looked at it, that was our staple. But that was also part of Giuliani with the clean, the
streets.
broken windows and all that, clean streets. That's what they actually wanted. So originally, it was like, for housing, it was okay, but for PD, it was taboo. Like, oh, you're bringing a crack pipe, whatever.
Couldn't do that. Yeah.
And then it became, bring in everything.
That's
It
right.
was funny to watch it turn.
Oh, it was great, but we were the only ones that could do stuff.
And we were doing it. When I had a year on a job, I had 10 times more collars than anybody in PD. I knew like so much more procedural. Like I was doing things on my own. I think I did my first search warrant with a year and a half on, and from that point on, I liked doing the search warrant. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's exciting. And I ran with that.
Well, you had one of the most famous search warrants in PD history, right? What'd you do?
What was it?
Search.
I tell you, I don't even think it was once. I think it might have been twice. Yeah, I had to get a search warrant for a guy's cavity.
The guy's cavity.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so he was in the
For people that don't know what that means, that's his ass.
Yeah. So we were in a patrol car, and we're coming back. I'm riding with him. I'm in the back seat. He's rear cuffed, and he's reaching down into his pants. And I'm like, who cares? What's he going to do? He's going to try to dump it in the car? That's fine. But what I didn't get was that he was, and I had felt it in the street. Now this is right after Diallo.
Yep.
With
okay. So this is later
thing.
on.
Yeah, this is later.
No, Diallo was the shooting.
Diallo was.
The other guy.
Yeah,
I know what you're
that was
talking
the
about.
guy, the street crime, right?
Yeah.
All right. It was the other guy.
That was in the 4-3, actually.
In Brooklyn with Volpe and them, a terrible, sickening thing. Yeah. So we're on 145th Street between 8th and St. Nicholas Avenue. It's a thoroughfare, and it's daylight, and there's tons of people out there. And we got this guy stopped. I feel the plastic bag with big rocks in it down the back of his pants. And I was just going to pull his sweatpants down and recover it. And the boss is like, "Oh no," because you don't want to go near that area. And I'm like, "I understand." So whatever. So we put him in the car, and he's reaching down while we're driving back. And I figured he was going to dump it. He didn't dump it. He shoved it up his rectum. Yeah. So now we got to bring him to the hospital, and the doctors won't touch him. They just he doesn't want to be touched. They refuse to touch him. So I'm like, "What are we got to do?" And this boss is like, got to get a warrant. I go, "What are you talking about? I got to get a warrant." So they explain. So I go, I get the warrant. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I bring the warrant back, and the doctor still refuses. Doctor says, "Look," he says, "I'm not going to do anything." What did he call the word? If they got evasive, he goes, "I won't do anything too evasive on him." So they wouldn't do it. So we were it was like 3 days he was sitting there.
Have to wait for it to come out.
That was what we were hoping, but the problem was that you had guys 3 different tours sitting there, not paying attention, sleeping, and ultimately we never recovered it. And the guy looks at me and laughs as we're letting him go, and he says, "Yeah," he goes, "Your boys sleep on a midnight." And I'm like, I says, "Well, so be it." I can't knock the guy into midnight for getting a little bit of nap. I would have been miserable sitting there all night with
this guy's ass.
So that was the end of that. But even with the warrant, they weren't gonna. It would have had to come natural. They weren't gonna just go and get it, which I didn't understand, because if that bag broke, he'd be in a lot of trouble. It would kill him.
And that happened to you once before too, right?
I had a kid we were
That
down
was in the Polo Grounds, right?
no, St. Nicholas houses.
Okay.
We were in the St. Nicholas housing project, and me and another guy, we were going to partner up down there because he was already down there on foot and he was crushing it. And I liked him. He was a great guy. He says, I want to work with him. They called him Brown Shoes down there. I don't know why. Me and
What was your
him,
nickname on?
they called me Redbeard. I got
Redbeard.
that from that project too. Yeah, Redbeard. So this guy, Brown Shoes. I had a rookie. We went to court. We called it up the night before. We all were in court together. So I says, look, let's get out of court. We're done. Let's go back and we'll hit the projects and see if we can come up with something. So I brought the rookie with me and the guy that I was going to partner with in this project. So we all went in there and we got off the bus down at like 125th and 8th, and we walked up two blocks to 127th Street, and the buildings were in a row. So we start off on the furthest building on 127 and 8, and we go through the back door, out the front door. Back door, the next building, front door. This is how we could kind of sneak up. As we get to the third building, we go through the back, excuse me, we went through the front of that one to go out the back. As we're cutting.
So
through
you're like cutting through the alleys, basically looking for a gun collar or whatever, or
looking for anything, because you're sneaking up on them. You're getting a little bit of advantage than walking down the sidewalk. They see you coming, everybody starts yelling, whistling, whatever. So we go into the back of the lobby, the back stairwell area, and there's a dude, and he's serving another guy, right? So I grab the buyer, and the seller starts running up the stairs. The buyer starts resisting. I clock him, get him in cuffs quick. The rookie and the other guy was with Brown Shoes. Brown Shoes chases him up the stairs. He hits the first floor, and he goes through the door. And now there's only one way for him to go, and that's come around and come either up or down the other staircase. So I send the rookie. I says, go over that way by the lobby again. And he does so, and the guy comes barreling down and runs into the rookie. The other cop, they tackle him. He kind of crawls out the front door, and they're holding him. I run out with my guy, and the kid starts like gagging, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like mad he's running, and I kind of like, yeah, quit screwing around, And I'm watching him, and the guy, I mean, his eyes roll back in his head, and he pisses himself, and I'm like, this is no joke, So I put over the radio. I says, give me an ambulance over here forthwith. I got a guy, he's choking on something, so.
Oh, he was choking?
He's choking. When he ran up the stairs. He had a sandwich baggie filled with crack, and he shoved that. And they take the soft sandwich baggie. He swallowed it as much as he could. It just blocked his whole throat and everything. So he died right there, and we're waiting for the ambulance. The ambulance comes over. They instead of going it was 237 West 127th Street. The ambulance went to 237 East 127th Street, and I put it over clearly. They screwed up, and all the drug dealers are now encircling us, right? Because he's working for one of the main drug dealers that I knew, and I could tell by, first of all, I just knew it, but the bags he was selling, they were Nike checks. Okay. Nike checks were for this guy that I knew very well. So they were all out there, and they were trying to intimidate us, and I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna. And I'm laughing at them because it didn't happen in housing. You understand? There was no intimidating. We intimidated you.
Yeah, it wasn't
you weren't gonna, So we took care of what we had to take care of anyway. So the guy that I wanted to partner up with in the development, they all knew who he was. They didn't know me at this point. So their anger went to him. And they put, like, the Amsterdam News had an article, they blamed him, said he killed the kid and everything. But there was witnesses, decent people that sat out in front of that building that gave statements to IAB. And the IAB guy came, he was Inspector King, and he was known to be a rough guy in housing, And he interviewed us, and afterwards, we were fairly new, and we were all nervous. And he goes, look, if I thought you did anything wrong, you'd be suspended right now or whatever.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
So it was what it was. And they ended up doing the autopsy, and they pulled the baggie out, and like 12 Ziplocs of Nike check crack baggies in there and everything. And that was that. Poor guy, not poor guy, I guess it helped his career. They said, you can't work in the projects anymore to the guy I was with, because they wanted to kill him. So he took a detail, he went to a detail, and I ended up backfilling. I took that project,
Oh, so you ended up taking it?
I ended up taking it. Oh, yeah. And that's where I made my bones, if you want to say, I did a lot of work down there.
That's hysterical.
So
what year was that? That's what?
Oh, that was probably
94.
Well, we got out in 93 from the academy, beginning of 93. It would have been 94 because I was 93 to 94. I was in the day tour sector car.
Okay.
And then after that, I says, I want to do the PCO. Now, they put me, I might have had a total of maybe a year and a half, 2 years. They had me field training,
That's insane.
because we collared.
So much.
And everything turned to that. They wanted those arrests and stuff. And mean, if I had more than 2 years on, I did a couple classes. It was fun. But
How many years? So you had 2 or 3 years on when you were a field training officer?
yeah, I think I had like 2, if that.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. But we had, when I did it, I had guys that were senior guys. They were old, senior.
Sure.
And you know what
Me
we
too,
did?
yeah.
We smoked cigarettes.
That's all we did. That's all we did.
I was like, I'm itching. I want to go do something. I'm like,
They didn't want to do shit. It was
no,
5
they
of
don't
us.
want to do nothing, man. We would go each building. Okay, we're going to do a vertical. He'd put it over. We'd go up to the roof.
Yeah,
landing,
put the verticals over.
smoke a cigarette, go back down. Each building. I never smoked so much in my life.
That's crazy.
And then you had that guy. Then you had like Tackleberry. This guy that's like, he didn't really make collars. He didn't really make collars, but he knew all of the. He was a weapons guy.
Yeah.
He was he tell you how to put people in locks and wrist locks and pains, and he'd do it to us. We'd be like getting beat up every time working with him. And we had one guy that was really a collar guy, and I only had him for like 4 or 5 days. That was it, because they cut our field training short. I think we did. You're supposed to do like 3 months or 2 months. We did like a month. That was it. And
Put us on
2
patrol.
weeks of that month, we didn't have radios, so we were sitting in the senior center in the project where we had our precinct.
That's right.
It was pretty. They threw us out to the wolves quick, but that's the only way to learn. So.
Oh, we got thrown out really quick. That was great though. And then, so you end up. When'd you go to the 3-2 squad?
I went to the 3-2 squad in around 1990. I'd say 98.
Oh, 98.
Yeah, it was.
So
around,
before 98, so I gotta tell the story about me because that's classic. Oh shit.
So,
you could start.
right.
Yeah,
So-
Matt Hole, his name was.
Matt Hole. Yeah.
Matt. Yeah.
That's who you were with.
No.
No,
It was my partner. May he rest in peace. Frankie Patone was my partner, and Strebel couldn't stand Frankie.
He
Hated him. Yeah.
Well, Strebel was the duty captain that day.
That's right.
And
You're driving a duty captain.
yeah,
right?
he needed somebody to drive him, so they pulled me. And he says, all right, we got to go over to the Bronx. He goes, we got a double homicide over there. I'm like, oh, all right. So we drive over to the Bronx to the projects, a big parking lot.
Bronxville, right? Bronxville.
Yeah, two guys dead in a car over there, right? This is like maybe 8, 9 in the morning. They found him, I guess. So the duty captain's, he's talking to people, trying to figure out what's going on. And he's like, what do we got? What happened? He goes, you got anything from 911 calls? They go, well, we got one from last night on the midnight. And he's like, well, it was just shots fired out here. And the captain says, all right, well, who was working? And he says, it was Richie Amato. And this other guy, and I'm sitting in the car. I go, Richie Amato, and I start cracking up. They go, well, what happened? He says, yeah, they marked it a 90 X-ray, which is nothing's going on, unfounded. It's an unfounded X is called. So yeah, they marked it 90X. So, and I'm laughing because I know Richie very well, and not that he would intentionally do anything, but shots fired came over. It's in a car. It's stifled. You don't know. You have nobody running. Nothing.
You got nothing.
Yeah, you got nothing. So these poor guys were sitting dead in that car for a while.
That's the best.
I thought it was funny.
Matt gave him a summons.
Yeah, he wrote a summons to the car, and that's
right.
how. Yeah.
And then when he went to put the summons on
Out
the
the
car,
window. That's what it was. Yeah.
he comes up. Yeah, we were probably in some parking lot, sleeping or whatever. X-ray that central. Go ahead, call it over in 10 minutes. I think I remember driving through the parking lot that night for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, I'm sure you probably did for the job, but
Because it was like
you
three of them
know.
that came over, I think, right?
Yeah.
They came over a couple times, the shots fired, and we were lucky because we didn't see anybody, so obviously they were dead. We're not going to look
You
at
don't
every
find
car.
a casing, a hole in a car, nothing. What do you got? You got nothing.
You got nothing. So,
Let's see. We would even if you had multiple callers, we weren't. With the way it was back then, you weren't making something out of it. If you didn't see nothing, if there was nothing going on, it was just an X-ray because you couldn't stop for every shooting. Every shot's fired. Every shot's fired. There's shots fired all the time.
Yeah, it was insane back then. It's especially the Bronx back then.
But the Bronx was worse than Harlem.
Was it worse, you think?
Yeah,
Or,
the Bronx was definitely worse. Well, South Bronx was definitely worse.
Yeah, I think PSA 7 was.
PSA 7 was worse, and Brooklyn was worse, and even I think the Rockaways were worse than Harlem. People, you get the wrong perception. I mean, it was bad, Washington Heights, but Washington Heights, the Dominican guys, they wanted to do business. They were selling weight. The only time violence came in is if somebody tried to rob them. There was a few beefs, but they were smarter, and they just didn't want the police on the block. And that's.
Well, we were talking about this the other day, you and I. Local Motion. Did you work with those guys at all?
I think they were probably there towards the end. When I first got there, I was just a rookie, you know.
Okay.
And I remember
That was the 3-4 though.
3-4. Yeah. That was that Patty Regan, I think his name
Yeah,
was.
we talked about that.
Yeah.
Mike O'Keefe, right?
Yep. And I met Patty at a party recently, and I was talking to him. You know, just say he was just known. He was like a legend back then. You know, like if you know in the police world, if you were new and you heard these guys, locomotion, you're like, oh, well, those guys are good. You know, because they were pulling guns after guns, kilos. You know, everything they were running into. So.
Well, kilos, I think back then they were selling them right out of the street corners, right?
Yeah,
In Washington Heights?
You could, you kilos were, they'd walk with a shopping bag, you know, filled, you know, there was all different things they were doing. I remember once they were transporting them in like an old couch. They had a couple guys carrying a couch.
That's
and it was
hysterical.
packed with kilos. Yeah.
Holy
They had
shit.
women pushing baby carriages with kilos underneath it or money. You know, anything they were trying to move from one place to the other. You know, old ladies doing it for them. They were, you know, doing anything to throw us off. And, you know, I'm sure 80% of the time they
away
were
with it,
fine, you know, 80, 90%, you know what I mean? You know, we'd only, you know, you got to abide by the rules, you know. If I could just say, hey, I know that guy's dirty and grab him, you know, I would have caught a lot more.
Of course.
But, you know, you can't do that stuff, so.
Yeah, the other interesting thing was, again, we were talking about it before, going through alleys and sneaking up on them and shit like that. You know?
I used to just walking. If I was in uniform, I used to make good collars in uniform.
So did I, yeah.
And I'd take my hat and put it on backwards because that cap device shines.
That's right.
So I put the hat on backwards and I'd line up a tree between me and the group of people or guys or whatever that I was going to get to. And I would be able to slowly maneuver my way over, and I'd be 2 feet away from them before they looked
Listening
like,
to
oh
them.
man, yeah.
Got
And then oh shit when they, you know, the oh shit look.
Yeah, that's right. It's fucking crazy. But so you go to. Oh, well, let's get back to. Were you still in the housing project when Paul got it, or were you there? Paul Heidelberg, was that Paul? Or no?
No, Paul was before. I think
Paul was the
before we
one at
got
the
on.
club.
He was out in Queens, yeah.
In Bayside, and then it was.
John Williamson.
John Williamson.
Yeah. I got to the precinct.
That was the bucket, right?
Yeah, I had gotten to the precinct in January '93, and I believe that happened in October of '93. It was pretty quick.
Oh, it was before us?
No. I got there in January.
Oh, we got there in January.
And
So
then
I thought you said
yeah,
94.
no, like
okay.
10 months later, whatever it was. Yeah. And I
That was
wasn't
a
working.
Saturday, right?
I know I wasn't working that night that it happened, and I didn't hear anything. I knew nothing. I came in for the day tour, and I was doing the day tour. I remember, and as I was doing day tours, that was the first year. And as I was walking in, I just saw they had a bunting out, and I saw just
That's right,
stuff
yeah.
going on, and I go, something's not right here. What the heck's going on? And then they told me, I was like, oh my God, you know, these guys were probably 3 or 4 years ahead of me, and there was a whole group of them that were.
John came out in the 80s, right?
Yeah, he probably came out
88,
like
89?
89, yeah. And they
Oh,
had
that's
they had a
so-
little clique, and one of them, a girl that I went to high school with, she was, you know, so she was nice because she kind of, you know, softened the blow for me going to a place I didn't know anybody because I knew her, you know.
Of course.
And our parents were actually friends when we were younger, so.
Is that why you went there? Or?
No, I wanted the Bronx. You know, everybody I knew was going to the Bronx. And so I'm like, what?
Well, Spags went to 9.
Well, if you were from Westchester,
We went to the.
you went to either Manhattan or the Bronx.
That's right.
Spags was Long Island, so he went.
That's right. He went to
Queens.
Queens.
So, you know, it was nice that I knew somebody. And she was part of the whole group with these guys. There was like 6 or 8 of them, their squad, and a couple of the bosses that they were all tight with, and they were like a real close knit family. And it was terrible. It was just brutal. It was you know, just such a senseless, stupid thing. And the animal that did it got like a slap on the wrist, man. You know,
Yeah.
I think they gave him 5 years.
That's it.
Yeah. For,
That's the one that
manslaughter.
Didn't he flee the
He fled to
Dominican Republic?
Dominican Republic, yeah, and the detectives let it be known. This was what, from what I was told, this is what they said. They said, get the word to him that we're going to kill his family if he doesn't come back. Now, they were never going to do that, of
course not.
but they just did whatever they could do. And then they reached out to the local clergyman, you know, and they brought him in, and he's such a good kid, and blah, blah, blah. He threw a bucket off of a 6-story building,
Full of fucking.
a 50-pound spackle bucket,
That's right.
into a crowd of like 30 police officers, all right? Murder, too, is a depraved indifference to life, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
If that's not a depraved indifference to life, that you
What
caused
is?
the death, what is? And they gave that clown, like I said,
Manslaughter.
manslaughter in like 5 years. It was sad. It's you know, it's still sad to this day. You know, that guy lost his whole life. He was a good guy. You know, he was a family guy. I think he was like the Cub Scout, or he coached one of the sports for kids. I mean, he was just a good person. You know, you meet a lot of people in your life.
Some are scumbags.
Some, yeah, and some of them are just regular, and there's nothing wrong with being regular. But then some of them go above and beyond and do the nice things, and he would do that. So,
Yeah,
you know,
he's
it's
a good guy.
sad. Yeah,
That was 92, though.
that was 93.
93.
Yeah, 93.
That was 93. And then
And then Kevin Gillespie. When did
Kevin
Gillespie was probably 96, 97?
Yeah.
Street crime?
So Kevin, it's an interesting story with Kevin. I'm driving the duty captain, and I was driving Sammy Guarino that night. And it's funny, Sammy says to me, we got a softball game tomorrow. I need you to be fresh, so you're driving me. I don't want you to go out in a collar and missing the game. So I'm like, fuck. So me and him go. We end up in Brooklyn. We end up in PSA 2. That's the only place I was ever afraid in my life as a cop. Brownsville Projects. It was bad. So we pull up, and I see Kevin. And Kevin, hey, remember him, right?
Yeah.
Great guy, but he was a quirky, you know. So
He's a military, man. He was like he was still in the military.
That's right. And he says to me, which was ironic, he goes, you know, you Bronx guys, all you deal with is drugs. And he goes, I'm going to come back with a gun in 20 minutes for you. And my line, I'm proud of you. Knock yourself out. I'm proud of you. So 20 minutes later, me and the captain are still there. And he comes in with a 38 or whatever, 380. Told you. A couple weeks later, he ends up on the course, and I don't think he let his guard down. It was just a fluke accident.
Freak. I think I got it. You know, it went between the vest panels, I think.
Right. Went through the panels, hit him, and they never recovered from it. It was, you know, that was horrible. I still think of that to this day. That was horrible because that was right on the 140s.
Yeah, in the concourse.
The concourse, yeah.
Concourse.
Pulled over a car.
Stolen car, yeah.
Was it stolen?
Yeah, it was stolen. And
But they didn't know it was stolen.
Oh, maybe not at the time, but they were flying or something. They went to pull them over, and then they took off.
Something like that, yeah.
When
Then they pulled over.
When they did pull over, they came out blasting, I think.
Yeah, Kevin was he stepped out of the car and got hit, and that's what happened there. Then you end up in the 3-2 squad.
Yeah,
How'd that happen?
Well, my CO was a good guy. You know, I always had good relations with the COs. At the end, one guy didn't, and that was it. The whole time I had really, I could go into their offices because I was bringing in the collars. I had all the intel for the command. Like I knew I had so much going on at all times that they wanted to hear what I had to say if there was a shooting. Or
why were you like that?
I say ADHD.
Okay.
Now, when I say that, because I always thought that meant that you couldn't pay attention to nothing, right?
No,
but the other side to that is that you pay
attention.
attention. So if I liked something, man, I went 24/7, full blown, 100 miles an hour. I couldn't stop. And that's what I loved the police work. When I got there, I don't think I took. You had to take a certain amount of your vacation, but you could always bank 5 or 10 days and work it. And I banked nonstop. I didn't want to miss days off. I didn't want to miss anything. I'm like, what did I miss? You know, I loved it. So I was just so into it, man. That you know, I'd look at situations and I'd figure out, okay, how can I? You know, I'd see something that I knew was wrong. Guys doing stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, and I'm like, all right, how can I catch these guys? What do I have to do? And I'd study it and figure out how I had to climb, sneak, borrow a ladder from FD, and we'd go run down a different road and put it up to get into one of these buildings that was abandoned, because like anything we could do to catch these guys. And as it paid off, meaning as I would catch them, because I put a little bit extra into it, which a lot of guys were just like, think, you know, you're crazy. You know, they're not going to do that. They're just riding the sector cars, answering jobs, you know. I wasn't about that. So I just went so crazy. I mean, I would drive home at night, and I didn't know how I got there. I'd leave the precinct, and the next second I knew I was pulling in my driveway, because my mind was thinking of everything I did that night.
What you could do better.
What I could do better, what I could have changed, what I'm going to do tomorrow, just nonstop rattling in my brain, man. It was, you know, you ask anybody that knew me, they understood that, yeah. But it was good, and say if I was part of a team, you know, I would be the person that was the drive, and not that other guys weren't, but I would say, okay, let's go this, let's do that, let's do this, and I would pretty much set the tone and the pattern to get our numbers. You know, everybody had to get numbers.
So the COs loved you.
COs liked me. So my CO was a good guy. Carl Ringwald was his name, and he never told me that he put me in for the RAM, which is the robbery, burglary. I don't know what I don't
In the
even,
3-2?
Yeah, in a 3-2 Ram, which I don't even know what that stood for anymore. It was a
Wasn't it?
robbery.
Robbery, obsession.
Yeah,
God, I
whatever the heck
remember what it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
So-
RIP was robbery. I don't even fucking remember.
Yeah, well, it was the new RIP. It was
Yeah,
Ram.
It was RIP. Yeah.
So
That's right.
if he
Ram.
had told me, I would not have went. I would have stayed. I loved housing. So, but what happened was,
Why did you go to housing detectives? Did they take him out by then, or
Yeah,
they
there was
made?
no more housing detectives.
Oh, so they
I
merged it.
wanted the specialist shielding to stay,
Yes.
and my he wanted to get it from me. He goes, look, they're just not giving it out. They just don't give it out. So I says, all right, I'll tell you that rolls into all of this. What happened?
Yeah.
But so about a week before, we had just put together another crime team, whatever, maybe 2 weeks before, and I went on the crime team with a new boss, and we were going out doing stuff. And
Did you work with Piacente
Piacente,
as a sergeant?
no.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, well, lieutenant. How about Jimmy Rogers?
Jimmy Rogers, yeah.
Great
He
fucking
was a good
guy.
guy. He was a good guy. He was a real good guy. I told you, I'll bring that up. Remind me again, because I'll tell you what happened with that.
I can tell you stories about
Yeah.
Jimmy too. He ended up a 1-star chief.
Yeah, he went up. He went up. He looked
Great
out
guy.
for me down the line,
Yeah, me
and I
too.
kind of didn't do what I wanted.
Yeah.
I said, forget it after. But so I go to his new crime team, and the sergeant was a friend of mine, but we would butt heads, and we went out the first couple of weeks. I pulled like 3 guns, and I took one and I gave the other 2. But stop this guy, do this, do that. So we were hot, we were heavy. I was really good, and not.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So we go out one night. Something happens. I got to draw up a search warrant. So I says, look, I'm taking this other officer from our team with us because I can't go by myself. It's a lot of work. You sometimes you got to pull the guy out of the system. You got to bring him to the court. You got to sneak him around. While he's in here, you got to go do something else. So you need another person.
course.
So the sergeant told me, no, you're not taking so-and-so. And I was like, what? I go, listen, I'm drawing up. I got to do this. And sergeant did not want to hear it. So I went to the lieutenant, who was my buddy. I says, yo, Kevin Ratty, great,
Yep, I know Kevin.
great guy. I says, Kev, this is what's going on. He goes, yeah, take her and go to court. I says, okay. So I do that. When I come back,
He's not happy.
no, don't matter what he is, that sergeant is
That's what I'm saying, he's
yeah,
livid.
It's a woman. She's fucking pissed. Sorry.
It's all
And just goes off on me. And basically, I gave it right back. I was like, I'm not going to let you speak to me this way, and I gave it right back to her. So she was, drive back to the command. You're done. I go,
Insubordination.
yeah, all right, whatever. So we drive back to the command. As we're walking into the command, she's yelling at me, and I'm yelling back at her. I'm like, you're wrong, and I give it to her. The desk sergeant happened to be one of the tools of the job. Real piece of work this guy was. So he took her side, obviously, and she was a boss, and I don't,
Can't
and
blame
I
him.
liked it. We were friends, me and her. It was just crazy that it happened. So anyway, he says, listen, you're out of crime. I says, no problem. And I didn't even see the captain yet. I'd be 2 days later, I get whatever I wanted anyway. I'd be like, put me back on football. I love football. I loved it. Put me back in the projects on my foot post. I'm happy.
They're good, yeah.
So they said, but until then, you're going to go stand in front of the command, and that's your post. And it was cold out, I'm like, I go, what?
Fuck that.
They go, yeah, you're going to stand right there in front of the command.
Station
and
house
that's it,
security.
yeah. But outside, trying to bust my chops. Like, okay. So I'm standing there, and somebody walks by and says, my boyfriend beat me up. I go, where is he? Across this area. I run over there. I grab him. The sergeant was on lunch. So I come in,
Process him.
process quick at the rep, so he can't. So I beat him that
Can't
night.
assign it, yeah.
The next night I come in, same thing. Go out there and you're not. Oh, they said you're going up to Dykeman houses. We're going to put you up in Dykeman houses. That's it. You're going up there. On the way up, right, we would stop off on Audubon Avenue, which is known for car stripping.
Sure.
And I grab a car stripping collar. So I take that, and then the guy tells me, next time you're not taking any collar. He lays it out. Now I had a couple days off. I get a call. You're transferred to the 3-2 squad. I go, what the hell are you talking about? I'm transferred to the 3-2 squad. Like, what are you talking about? They go, yeah, there's this Ram thing, and your captain. I go, he didn't even tell me he put me in for that. So I says, listen, I'm not going to go over there like with a vice and be pimped out for 6 months and then sent back. I
course
says,
not.
I'm going to be there and get a shield. They go, yeah. I says, okay, because things are so bad at the PSA,
Better off.
I knew my buddy lieutenant could not,
Help you out. Yeah.
if he's off one night, they're going to just,
Fuck with you.
yeah. So I says, all right. So I did it. I went to the 3-2 squad, and it was interesting, and it was fun. And, there was a lot of stuff, but it was also suit and tie and a lot of paperwork, man. And I am not a paperwork guy. I was terrible at that. So I stayed. I got my shield there. I did like 3 years there, And, I fit in. We were pretty close-knit there. We had a lot of fun.
What was your best case there? Anything good or?
We had murders and stuff. It might not even have been my case, but I worked on other people's cases and grabbing people for homicides. Like
Sure.
that was a lot of fun. You know, I mean, that's you know, this is why homicides. You would think it's the pinnacle of your career, and after you grab somebody for a homicide,
Not.
you're thinking you're going to feel a certain way. Like, hey, and it didn't. It didn't really.
Does it affect you?
Yeah, I says, you know, it doesn't really. It's cool and everything, but I felt like the other stuff I did was as important and funner. You know, it's just, you know, it was just.
There's something about sneaking up on a guy that's selling crack.
Yeah, exactly. or with a pistol, chasing them and all
that's
that.
right.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
And being able to
so
catch him.
after that, I was like, you know, I'm just not really feeling this, man. And I started to get like, you know, I said, I don't even want to be here. And I had felt that way before I got the Shield and somebody old time. I worked.
How long are you on the job now?
That time I came out and I got a 92. That was 98. So 6 years. I mean, I was on a.
So you were there when I was working for in my aunt's buildings on Edgecombe.
Oh, yeah. We
Yeah.
used to do stuff there. I
right.
remember talking to you about stuff over
right.
there. There was stuff going on, and I tried to give you direction and whatever. Yeah, I think, didn't I do security for you over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did security. You had an issue. One of her tenants was threatening her or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing security. We go up and stay and sleep there, too. I don't know what it was.
You slept for the night. Yeah.
Yeah, went right in there and went to sleep.
But he had all the money in the world.
So I had
does.
these old timers, man. I want to remember their names. They're really good guys. These are guys that were like,
In the squad.
yeah, they had like 30 years on then, and they were guys that were hired and then got laid off during the big layoffs in
in
like
the
the
70s.
late 70s,
Yeah.
and then got the job back. I mean, and these were like real detectives. These guys. Eddie Clifford was one of them, great guy, and Tommy Trezza. I remember they were partners, and they used to show me pictures of them because they were like in a Bronx crime team together, whatever. And these guys were now old men, you know, and they're showing me their young with long hair, beards, and pistols on the table, you know, just like when we would take ours. And I'm sure if somebody finds one of my old pictures, it's like, who's this old guy, you know, or you know, look at how old the picture is, you know. So anyway, those guys kind of talked me into. I was going to leave before I got the Shield, and I said, okay, I want to stick it out. So I stayed in. And after a little bit, I says, you know, I can't do this.
When you left, you turned the Shield back in, or
I had to demote myself. I had to voluntarily demote myself, which.
so you lose pay, or what is that?
Yeah, well, yeah, you lose the pay scale, yeah. But I don't think I was at top pay back then. It was like 4 or 5 years to get to top pay as a detective. It was this long.
Oh, that's right. It was a long
steps.
carryover.
They
They
changed
weren't
it
giving
afterwards.
grade after that until you
No,
retired.
and while I was there, the job decided, hey, housing, we're going to give a bunch of detective specialist shields out. And I mean, I had just gotten to the squad. I was there maybe 6 months, and they gave out like 2 or 3 of them to the command, and they gave them to guys that
Didn't deserve it. Not that they didn't deserve
one
it.
of them. I'll tell you this way: one of them worked.
TS.
No, he worked in up in the 3-3 in a senior home. It was one big building, but almost like a hospital, where you walked in, you had a security guard at a desk, right?
Okay.
And everything was interior. There was no way to get in from the outside. I mean, this place was secure. It was beautiful. And they had a lot of home attendants, you know, people that took care of these, you know, a lot of nice women that took care of him. And he was Dominican, so he spoke the language. He had it made up there. So on Thanksgiving one year, he donated his time and he served some homeless people turkey. And that's why he got his shield. It never made a collar the whole time. I mean, it was a joke.
Turkey.
He had a great position where there was really no risk. And yeah, he served somebody turkey, so he got the shield for that, you know. And
Fucking
I
awesome.
was like, I'm over there in the squad, wearing a suit and tie, typing one finger at a time, you know,
Oh my
going, God
God.
damn it, looking at it. That could have been me, because I would have got it. I would have got it. There was no way I would, you know. Anyway,
A voucher.
yeah, I go, that's the way the job was, you know that. And matter of fact, they had a list, and they were supposed to give out 5 of them, and they stopped after the first 2, and the first 2 that got it.
Just didn't.
But it was kind of funny. If they had given out the other 3, maybe then they could say, okay, we gave it to some good guys, and they just didn't. They stopped at the first 2. So
Why do you think they stopped it? 'Cause I remember when they did that. For a little bit.
I think that
I remember seeing guys in uniform with the.
I think the
laughing at
PBA
'em.
complained. I think the PBA complained about it. You're making too many special. You're giving these guys because they lose them as
Oh, that's right. As members.
members. Yeah,
That's
and
right.
I think they said, you know, like you shouldn't be done. I think they made a deal to cut it. You know.
That's so interesting.
So
So
yeah.
when you. So you.
So in 2001, towards the end of 2001, I went up and I seen Chief Taylor. I think his last name was Taylor at the time. He was the chief of detectives, Manhattan detectives, Manhattan.
Okay.
And I told him, I says, look, I want out of here. I says,
Where was Dunn at that point? Was he Chief Dunn?
Chief Dunn. Back then, Chief of Patrol was the highest. I could be wrong. I might have caught that wrong, but I don't know if the structure changed over the years. If chief of department was under patrol back in the day, I don't know. But he was chief of patrol. They said he was the highest rank. I says, well, you know, but he was a good guy. And him and his sister came on the job together, and they were twins. They were the first set of twins, boy-girl twins ever to be on the NYPD.
Oh wow!
And his brother was on. His whole face is because her father, because her grandfather was the chief, so all the kids came on, you know, and they were all, you know, storied careers and everything.
That's great.
But so I talked to the chief. I says, look, what do I got to do? I want to go back to housing, man.
And then we talking about Resnick. You ever work with him before? Or?
Resnick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with him when I was in the squad. He was the chief of Manhattan Detectives.
He was, right?
Yeah,
that's what I
took it over, and he everybody said he was a good detective. He knew what he was doing, you know. And they also said that he was like #1 making overtime when he was in the sergeant in the detective squad, right? But once he became the head of the detective squad, man, he was cutting overtime, you know.
Yeah.
But it was nice to have somebody competent, you know, because we had some real buffoons over the years, you know, and afterwards.
And you're glad you could say that now.
Oh, yeah, that's the good thing. And I worked, you know, I'll get into it, but I worked part-time police after. I've been doing that for 12 years since I retired. And one of the departments, I knew I didn't have to take it, and they pulled some nonsense, and I told them all to go shit in their hat, and I walked out, you know, and I felt great. I says, you know, I'm not worried about a pension, nothing right now. So I'm not gonna tolerate I'm not gonna tolerate any disrespect and nonsense. And it was pretty bad what they were doing. So I says, you know what?
Bye.
Yeah. So, so they demoted me. They said, yeah. I says, you know, if I can keep it, I'd like to keep it. I says, but, you know, because it was money. I didn't give a crap about being a detective. It was always about the money. And I knew in housing I could get grade. I watched guys get grade in housing, and, you know, they had it and they could do it.
But how do you get that? You get grade off a specialist shield?
Yeah, it's the same. Listen, there's no difference, man. So I gave it up. I went back to housing, and within
you got it right away,
3 years, no, maybe 3 years, I had the
specialist.
I had the specialist.
They didn't want to punish you because you left it? They didn't try to punish you?
No, it was great. They didn't hold it against me. You know, and a lot of that job is if you leave, it's spiteful. Like, he did this, he did that. You know, so it might have been four. When I left in 2001, 11 years? Yeah, it might have been 4 or 5 years later I got it. It might have took a little bit of time, but I got the specialist shield, and you know, and I was happy. You know, and when you got the specialist shield, there was no steps. You were a regular detective. You had to get steps to get top pay. Once you got that specialist shield, you went to detective top pay. If I remember correctly. But if not, it was they just changed it. And if not, they changed the contract at that time. And I fell into it where I might have we lowered it to 2 years. Yeah, and that's possible too. You know what
Didn't
it was?
your time count before though? Or no, they took
no,
that
didn't. Yeah, it didn't count. No. And it didn't count because I voluntarily demoted. None of that counted. That's why I take the pay cut. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what it was? It wasn't the when you get that shield was right. I happened to get lucky because like within a year, so they did a new contract and they stopped it from being 4 years. They made it 2, and I was right there, so I got it. When you got grade, that's when there was no steps. You just went right to grade, which was a big raise. That was the biggest raise. As
what you get, the second?
Yeah, same as going from cop to cop. You know, 3-4 year to top pay. That big jump. That's the way it was with the grade.
You got top sergeant's pay, right?
Grade, yeah, top sergeant's pay.
Second grade is.
Second grade is top sergeant's. First grade is top lieutenant.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then. So 9/11 happens. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, 9/11. So I was in a car heading down the FDR. And I probably was listening to Howard Stern. I don't remember, but I knew it happened.
Working or you?
Yeah, I was going to court that day, and I was.
Oh, so you're heading downtown?
And I had a suit and tie, that's good because that's what. And I had shoes on that were killing my feet, bro. I could barely walk. So I'm going down, and the FDR is a mess, and I'm hearing that a plane hit the tower, and I'm like, all right, nobody, you know, think nothing of it. It's an accident. You know, I don't know how serious it is, but on the way down, there's thousands. I'm talking about just car after car, sirens, lights. I look over, I see, what was his name? Mike Sheehan from the Fox 5 News. He has a Crown Vic, black, with a light pack in it. And he's flying by. I see this guy go by. Yeah, he's a good guy. I met him after that. I met him on something. And he comes flying by, and I look at him, I go, that's Mike Sheehan going over there. It was kind of funny. And I just
Where did he work when he was a cop?
He was homicide detective.
He was, right? But where did he come out of? Wasn't he in the 3-2? Or?
I have no idea, actually. I don't know. But yeah, he was well known.
Who's the other one? Peggy, Charlie Freitag used to fucking hang out with her all the time. The female that was pro cop, news reporter.
She was Dime? No, I know who you're talking about too. I know who
Short
you're
chick.
talking.
Charlie.
Yeah. She was weathered looking, bro.
Yeah.
Like she smoked too many cigarettes and
Yeah.
drank harder all
That's
her life.
right,
I know who
yes.
you're talking about.
Oh God.
So, as I get off the exit, right for the Brooklyn Bridge there, to go to the Manhattan courts, and it was traffic, and there was so many people going over there. So when I get to the court, nobody's around, and that's a good thing because if I saw somebody I knew, they would have been like, "Hey, let's go and check this out." So I went downstairs to the punching room. They go, "Nope, no court today." I says, "Okay." So I call up to my base. I go, "Look, obviously this plane hit the tower." I says, "What do you guys want me to do?" And they says, "Come back. There's nothing you can do. Just come back." I says, "Okay." I get in the car. I'm driving back. Yeah, as I'm driving back, the second plane hits.
Oh shit!
And I'm like, oh, now I'm like, oh, but now I'm like 30 blocks away, and it's just stopped traffic. It is a mess. It took me like 3 hours to get uptown through the streets too. No, forget about the FDR and all that. And then it collapsed as I was.
Were you in a personal car? Or were you?
I don't. I think I had a job car. Yeah, because back then I had my own. They gave me my own car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I remember calling you and Havity and saying, "All right, I'm going to come down," and you guys saying no.
Well, it was nothing good down there. Yeah, you didn't want to come down there. They had enough people. You never saw maybe 1,000 people go quiet, silent in a second. You'd hear the pile start. They'd think that they heard something on the pile, and they'd say, quiet, quiet, quiet. And everybody knew that they thought they heard. In the whole place, you could hear a pin drop, bro. In the whole downtown there, that whole area, which was giant, and not a peep because they thought they heard something. And I would say, I don't know what the hell they think they hear. There's nothing here. It's pulverized.
There's no way.
You couldn't make out anything. You make little pieces of stuff this big. Everything else was dust. That building just collapsed, and then it smoldered and burnt for a month and a half or whatever,
Sure. I remember, I guess it was 93. First time it was hit. And me and Frankie get sent down there. I don't know why they sent us down there. I thought housing would be a good idea to go down there and help out. Same thing with the project building when they took over the projects in 90. Were you there for? You had to be there for that.
Yeah, the one in Brooklyn.
The one in Brooklyn.
Oh my God!
I was selling pretzels. Me and Jimmy Rogers selling pretzels from the pretzel factory, going to Peter Luger's and eating outside of Peter Luger. I mean Jimmy. Okay, got to talk about Jimmy. But so I remember standing there and looking up at that building, and I looked to Frankie and I said, "There's no way in a million years these buildings would come down." And, it's not going to choke me up anymore, but Frankie lost his life because of it, 9/11 cancer, and, it's a horrible thing. And he said, I will never forget it because I learned so much from him. He's such a fucking crazy, SOB, but you learn so much from your first partner, especially a guy like him, union delegate and all of that. And I remember him saying to me, never say never. He said, "I've seen some crazy shit on this job, and being locked in the trunk of my car." And I'm like, "What?" And he would tell me the stories that was going on. But, and sure as shit, I think it was August of 2013 he passed away. 14. Wow. Yeah, he died of cancer. And it's horrible. But I think, Jimmy was down there because I talked to Jimmy afterwards. And,
Rogers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. Because I don't even know back then. Was he working down there? Because he was in 1PP for a long time.
Yeah, he was, but
I don't know if he was there
back then yet.
I think he was still. He might have been in the he was in the 19th as a CO for a while. He might have been there during that time.
That's right. He was in the 19th for a while, and then, but he was probably one of the best bosses that I ever worked for.
Yeah,
Jimmy. He was my squad sergeant. I had some really good squad sergeants in housing. I had John Tennant, JT.
Never heard of him.
He was a PSA 7 guy,
yeah,
like a real Rico Suave type dude, blonde-headed guy. Looked like Troy Aikman. Yeah. And shit that me and him would do.
When did you go to the 2-3? What year was that?
94, 95? I didn't spend a lot of time in housing. I wish I did.
Did you go, you went after, no, you probably went pre-merge, right?
Pre-merge.
Yeah, you went before the merge.
So I went, DARPA got fired. DARPA gets fired.
Listen, if anybody deserved to get fired, and he was a good guy. He was a great guy, but boy, he deserved to get fired.
DARPA gets fired, and I'm in the academy as a merge. And I remember seeing him in the hallways. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Would you merge to housing or transit? And he goes, no, he tells me he got fired and he had to go back to the academy for a couple of days because he went and got his job back. That's probably one of the funniest stories I ever heard. When he went back to the 4-7, he gets his job back and they're putting him on what the hell's this street there? Busy Corner, like in the 4-7, Fordham Road or whatever, the train. And they're putting him on foot post. Finally, he gets called by Long Island Railroad. And the way he told me the story was just fucking hysterical. Goes in, takes the job, gets everything approved, and he walks into the 4-7 precinct. He goes, walks by the front desk, and he goes in, and he goes into the captain's office, gets on the phone, and he calls the front desk, and he goes, "When Captain so-and-so comes in, send him into my office." Like a captain comes in, "What the fuck, Tom? What are you doing in my office?" And he goes through the whole thing, and he goes, "I quit." You can't quit. And they're going back and forth, and finally he goes, "I'll give you a sector." He goes, "I quit. I don't know what to fucking tell you. I quit. You can't quit this way." And he said they fought him to quit, and he finally walked out, and the cops were clapping while he was walking out the door.
That's how he did it. Yeah.
Because he got screwed, though. His was the summons.
Yeah, but he probably got screwed because of his craziness
Yeah,
too.
he was just out of his mind.
Yeah.
But all of those guys in the 4-7 were out of their mind. You went to the 4-7, there was something wrong with you.
People don't understand, and I'm not saying bad, but crazy.
Oh,
there was some real crazy people, man. Like you're like, what?
I know.
And they weren't doing nothing like terrible. They were just doing crazy stuff.
Yeah,
You're like,
just,
Jesus.
like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, Doppers was bad. Like, he went into the box. I can't pull out tickets.
They're just in a whole nother realm of being that they can. Like, it's nothing wrong with
But it's funny as shit because it's not you that it's happening to. It's somebody else usually. Because I was the guy egging Dopper on most of the time. Like a crazy shit. So you end up 9/11. You go back in. Now you're back in PSA.
Yeah, I went back. We were down there digging and doing all that stuff, and then they sent us out to Staten Island for a little while. And on Staten Island, you had two positions: either you stayed on where they would dump the debris onto a belt, what do they call it?
Conveyor belt.
Conveyor belt, excuse me. Yeah, and all you did was look at the stuff going by. If it was body parts, IDs, any identifiable, anything of value, you took it and you threw it in a bucket. And then you'd send, identification stuff.
What would you come across? Bones and.
Yeah, come across bones, nothing big, but chunks of flesh, bones. Yeah, you come across stuff like
That's
that.
the stuff you're throwing in the.
Throw it into you call it the ME bucket. You'd have a bucket, and that body part stuff will go in there, and then any IDs, jewelry, stuff like that will go in another one, and it would go because they're trying to identify even you give back somebody's family member there.
Sorry to cut you off on this. I think my cousin was down there. Kenny Robinson, was he with you? Down in Staten Island? There's probably a lot of guys. He was in the 113 squad, then he went to Queens Robbery.
They had the detective squad was there, the narcotics guys were there, and housing. That's who they chose to go to. Yeah, to go to the landfill. I don't know how they picked it, but that's who was there. So he very well, I'm sure that's why he was there.
Okay.
But I mean, I didn't go much. I got out of it, and even the detail with the World Trade Center towards as it was going on. If I went down, I drove the boss, and we would go get a hotel room. They give us a free room, so he'd do his stuff right around, and we go to sleep. Because we were there 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. was the tour. So he'd do his little visits. One night we overslept, and the guys are all out on the post. They can't leave until we come back. And oh my God, we're running again.
That's hysterical. Yeah. The alarm's going off. That reminds me of Glebe. I'm not going to say with who. I'm in an RMP. And we get there around 12:30. And Glebe was like the old project home, but it was an old person home, but it was a project. It was covered under housing. But it wasn't assisted living. It was just Glebe, it called it. It was perfect because nothing ever happened in Glebe. It was great. So we pulled back there. All right, we're going to take an hour nap. Back there. Knockout, it snows. So I get up in the middle of the night, I look around, it's fucking dark out, nothing going on, no big deal. Radio, nothing the whole night. We slept from fucking 12 o'clock to 8 in the morning, and we're getting a call from patrol, the day tour. Where are you guys? So like, what are you talking about? Switchover happened, 7 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. What do you mean it's 8 o'clock? We go to 9. We go to 9. We're on the radio. And it's like, it's fucking 3 in the morning. It was snow covering our car. We thought it was still dark out. So we get out. We were doing a vertical. Okay, what happened? We came across something. We put in for 2 hours overtime. We can get overtime. We slept the whole night. I was so refreshed. It was on the last one, too.
You know how everybody ran out of there at the end of their midnights. For you to be like that is the funniest thing in the world. Man.
But it was on the last one, 2 hours overtime. We were very, very refreshed. We didn't have to sleep all day. It was great. It was awesome. I love that job. I miss it so much. We had so much fun.
I loved it too. And I mean, the last 6-7 years, a lot of boredom, but that was the position, you know, just what I was doing, which was some days I would go out in uniform. I liked it. I'd be like, yo, my boss isn't here. I was in a plainclothes assignment, you know. We had my own undercover plainclothes car, you know, and me and the sergeant, and that's it.
You didn't go back to street crime afterwards? Or?
Nah, I went to the street crime in 97, end of 96, 97. They flooded it with like 300 guys, and they stopped being citywide. That's
right.
So I went then. And
did you work with Louis Gagliardi?
Gagliardi, no.
He was a 2-3 guy.
We went with my sergeant. That was the sergeant for the SNU team, the street narcotics. He took the whole team with him, and he lived down in Stuyvesant Town. And so he wanted Manhattan South street crime. That was a mistake. That was for good for him, bad for me.
For you.
So I went down with them, and
must have been boring for you.
It was boring. I mean, there was some stuff going on, but it wasn't like the North, you know.
You dealt with Chinatown, I guess, Alphabet City.
Yeah, well, everything.
Like
Yeah, and we had like a yellow cab, you know. But I'd come up with drugs, and they didn't want drugs. They were like, we don't even want. And I'm like, well, so I knew I'd have to do like 1,000 glassines of heroin, something like that was okay. Kilos were all right. That was it. They didn't want, and not. It's not easy. The heroin's easy down there. Kilos are not easy down there, you know. So I stayed down there like 3 months, and I met Joe Rosado, who was a lieutenant in street crime, and he was a good guy. He ended up having his issues, but he was a good guy.
Yeah, I remember him.
And I met him, and I says, look, I want to come up to the North. He says, I'm done down here. I want to go to the North. So he says, all right. He goes, come to the Smoker tonight. They had one of the smokers, the boxing matches. He says, and bring your, you used to do your OLBS print out of your arrests. So I walked in, I see him, and I put my arm up as high as I could, and I dropped the paper, and it only went halfway to the floor, you understand? Because I had hundreds and hundreds of arrests. And he goes, you start Monday. I said, thank you, sir. And I was up in the North. Now, when I got up there, everybody had already been, what's the word? They were all involved in their own teams. And it was kind of like us with housing. There was a bunch of guys that came from transit together, and they were all together, you know? And I came in. I was kind of the third wheel. Not for nothing, but the sergeant knew not what he was doing. He shouldn't have been there. There was a lot of guys that should not have been a street crime, right? They were not crime fighters, you know, whatever. They didn't know, you know, guns are different than writing C summonses even. I mean, I had a guy in there that says, you know, he goes, I'm not number 1 in the city for C summonses. Oh, this is what he said. Excuse me. He said he was number 7 in the city for resistant arrest things, right? And I said, well, what? And he goes, and Dave, you know something? I go, what? He goes, you're number 1. I go, what? In the whole city. Show me the printout. But you see, mine was resisting because of collars, guns, drugs, you know. He wrote 150 C summonses one year or something, and it was all guys for C summons resisting. That's what he got. And he was like number 7. I'm like, all right. So that's, you know, a lot of the guys, it was different. So anyway, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I says, I'm getting out of here. So I left. I went back to housing. Everything I did, I ended up going back to housing, you know. And then after I went back to housing, maybe 6 months later, that was the Diallo shooting. And I says, you know, I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking none of those guys for what happened, but I could see instances like that, you know,
happening because of it.
Just and I'm not saying that.
And that was a clean shoot.
Yeah, I'm not saying that happened because any of the officers made mistakes. Really, it was a litany of things that went down that every star aligned, unfortunately. But so anyway, that was.
So, all right, we got to go back to this. I got to go backtrack a little bit. Ming the Tiger, we haven't talked about that.
Ming the Tiger. All right, we'll throw the Tiger story out here. So 2430 7th Avenue, I believe it's 141 or 142 on 7th Avenue, right? It's one of the Drew Hamilton House's buildings, okay? They elect a project president. They make, you know, you're the president of the projects, you know, which should mean really nothing. I mean, God bless you, you know, but a lot of them were no good, you know, and unfortunately under Dinkins they had a lot of juice. So they came into
they did?
Oh yeah, amazing.
This was back in the Dinkins days?
But this is what spoiled them. Okay. Because this one was there for years. Dinkins gave them power. If they called down there and said they didn't like something about the police, those police officers were moved, you know,
I
People
remember
got,
that. Yeah. I think it was a prank.
yeah. So it didn't necessarily go under Giuliani, but I think they didn't want to raise. It's, they wanted to treat them somewhat. So anyway,
With respect. They wanted to
yeah, they were trying to be respectful and give them a little sense of that they're important. So that the building that this transpired in, the project president lived in there, right? And she's, so it shows what she knew, because everybody knew in the building. They just never said anything. Anyway, we get a call. I was driving the duty captain that night, but we were hanging out in the precinct. We weren't doing anything. So the phone call, it's a guy from ESU, and he says, "Listen, my cousin lives in Drew
Calls the
Hamlin."
precinct.
Yeah, he calls because he goes, "My cousin went into the 3-2. He told him that his brother got mauled by a tiger in 2437th Avenue." And we're like, "Oh, yeah?" And he says, and the 3-2 threw him out.
Which I could see, because back in the day, I remember on the midnights, we would make the calls, call up the precinct. There was horses and bears running in the cemetery. Stupid shit like that.
Yeah, so
with
the
lions.
3-2 said, "Get out of here." They threw him out. So this guy gave us, I says, "We'll send him up." So the guy comes up and he says, he says, "Look, it's my brother. He got this tiger when it was a baby, and he raised it." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "And it attacked him. It's going to kill him one of these days." And I'm like,
This
the
is
project.
the ESU guy.
No, this is the kid. The ESU guy was related to the guy, and he sent the guy in. So the guy came in. So I said, "Send him in." So
I got to hear this.
we all did. I told the ICO,
Bringing
I told
everybody
the
over.
captain. We're all waiting to see what. We don't believe it.
Of course.
And if it was, we're saying it got to be like a little baby one, and maybe had it a couple months somehow. So the brother comes up. He says, "Yeah, he has a tiger in there." He goes, "He has an alligator and a rabbit." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "This is it. It's all in the apartment, and the thing bit my brother." And I go, "It's not. How big is this thing?" He goes, "It's pretty big." I go, "How do you have a? I don't understand how." And he goes, "Oh, he got it." And he's telling me, and it's a little bit of credibility. So we shoot down there to the projects. Me and the lieutenant go down there to this place, and we walk around, and we're like, he said he was mauled. The guy goes to the hospital. He said he got mauled by a pit bulls. It was a big group of pit bulls running around a building, and they attacked them. That's what he told the hospital. So the brother comes, and he says, "Yeah." And I'm trying to see if I can open the door. I'm taking a peephole off, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm going to try to get." He goes, "You don't want to open that door." I go, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Don't open that door." I'm like, "That's setting in." I go, something is absolutely not right here. So I says, "All right." So we do the peephole.
Did you look under the door first?
Yeah, we did everything. It stunk in there, but most
Fucking tiger and an alligator.
a lot of those project
and a rabbit
were terrible. So we sent a car. We says, "Listen, go over to the
Let
hospital."
me guess, there was roaches too, right?
Oh, please. We says, "Go over to the hospital, talk to this guy, see what you can get out of him." So we send the car over there now. They weren't the most aggressive officers, so, they go, "Oh, well, no," he says it was dogs. So the brother swears. I says, "All right, we leave a guy on the door, and we go to interview the guy in the hospital." I says, "We got to go talk to him." The ICO's with me. He says, "Yeah." He says, "I think we should."
Go to the
He says,
hospital.
"Absolutely." So we go over there. The guy got up and left. He was gone. I'm like, "Whoa." I says, "Now this is getting a little more traction here." So
Makes sense.
yeah, now I'm saying something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong, but you still don't think what's going to happen. So we
Now, you guys got to be joking in the car.
oh, we're laughing and we're like, "Tiger, come on. This is crazy." What we're trying to figure out, maybe it's some kind of a cat, maybe it's a big dog.
No, Rottweiler or some shit like that.
Something's going on. So we go back and I tell the CO, and he says, "Look," the XO, because I was driving him, and he says, "This is what we're going to do." He goes, We're going to make some phone calls." So they make some phone calls. Say, "Look, we're going to pick this up in the morning. We're going to leave somebody on the door, and we'll do it in the morning." And I says, "Well, I'm not going home." And I says, "Do you?" He goes, "Nah, you don't have to go home." So I says, "Okay, good." So I'm sleeping in the command. We get a call. The guy that's on the door says, I saw it. And he's like Ukrainian, this guy, with a bad accent, And I'm like, "Well, how big was it?" He goes, "Oh," and I can't understand him. And I got it out of him that I felt like it's a tiger in there, but I still couldn't get enough because he was so inarticulate. It was such a tough language barrier. So anyway, we call up in the morning. We call up ESU, and we have everybody come over, right? So they go to the apartment upstairs, and they drop down a camera, and
Through the window.
through the window, and they got a monitor, right? And they're moving the thing around, and all of a sudden, you see the head. The thing's looking at the camera. He's like this. And its head is the size of at least a basketball, bro. And we're like, "Oh my God." Could not believe it. We're like, holy. Now they block off, all the streets are blocked off around it.
Imagine that fucking thing got out.
And I called News One
You called
when I
News
went to bed that night. I says, because I believed it at that point. And I says, look, I'm giving you a heads up. I says, there's a tiger in an apartment down at
And they're like, get the fuck out.
and she's like, a tiger. I go, yeah, and an alligator. I go, and a rabbit. And she goes, oh, and a rabbit too. I go, I'm telling you. I go, you should be there in the morning. It's gonna all come apart. It's gonna all happen in the morning.
And a rabbit too.
Yeah, they didn't believe me. They showed up late. You know, everybody came late. So the next
They
so
didn't
they
believe
did
me.
that poll cam thing, and now it's on. They're making notifications. The commissioner comes up, the police commissioner, chief of police department, Esposito, Scagnelli, which was funny because he's the big hunter.
Yep.
And I think that's why he came. He wanted to see
He's
the
the tiger.
And he got there. He was there early because he's running around grabbing all the big chiefs and bringing them upstairs, going, "You got to see this," because he was in the room with the camera with the monitor,
Yep.
and he's showing them all this stuff. Like, oh my God! So the guy shows up from the Long Island Zoo because he has to dart this, or he has to tell him how to dart it. You know.
Yeah.
So we're all waiting. The guy comes. They make the mix, whatever. They take an ESU guy and they repel him from the apartment upstairs, and he repels down the side of the building.
Where were you at this point?
I'm in the stairwell, the vestibule of the floor
Yep.
that this is happening on. So
You got a door between you at least? You got the regular door and then the other
the
door?
apartment door is it. That's it.
Oh, that's it. Oh, so you're in the hallway.
And they didn't open. Yeah,
You're
we're in the
not in the
hallway. Yeah, no. We're in like the vestibule. There's a big.
Oh,
these
geez.
ones have big vestibules.
Okay.
So we're all just standing there, you know, and ESU's ready. And so this guy comes down, and when he rappels down, the tiger jumps up. The window's open this much, but the tiger jumps up at him and smashes the window, and he shoots it with the dart. And when he shot it, the thing went roar. And I'm gonna tell you something.
Shit your pants.
That roar reverberated for 2 city blocks and made every hair on my stood up straight. My neck, I was like, boof. I was like, oh my God. It was the most guttural.
Yeah, what
I should have been in the Serengeti,
Yeah.
you know, listening to this. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. So they give it a couple minutes to go to sleep. The ESU opens the door. They force the door.
What did they do with the alligator? They forgot
I'll
about it?
tell you, no. The alligator was good. It was in a box.
Okay.
That was secure. I went in there. I seen all that. So they come out. They have like a big blanket, and they have this thing in a blanket, and they come out with it, and everybody grabs a corner of it, and walk it down, and we're going out the front door, and the thing's paw flops out. And I'm telling you, the paw was this big.
Wow.
Big. It just flopped out. It was 400 and something pounds. So it was
Fucking
probably
dead.
a little malnourished because the guy had no money.
Sure.
This guy was a
How do you feed
lunatic.
a tiger, too?
Yeah, he had no money. And
Oh, you ate the rabbit, you said, right?
yeah, so I go into the apartment. It's a box. It's probably 2 feet wide by like 8 feet long or 6 foot. And there's a caiman. It was a caiman. It wasn't an alley. It was a caiman. And it's in there, but it's just like in there, like it can't move. It has like 2 inches on each. It can't move. It's just stuck in that box. I felt bad for it. And then I found a cage. That was where the rabbit was, and there was no rabbit. The cage was ripped open, and there was like one drop of blood on the floor. So I guess the tiger got hungry. And the brother says, yeah, his brother, he used to go to the local Acme, whatever the food thing was there, and they give him all the old
Chicken.
meat.
Oh, the old
He'd
meat.
get the old meat for dirt cheap or for free. And that's what he would feed this thing, all the old meat. And he told his brother, go feed it. And the brother says, no. And that's why the brother called us. He goes, no, it attacked him. So it was all legit. The guy was a lunatic. We found him in Philadelphia in a hospital, which was good because he had a terrible infection. Like, if he didn't go back to a hospital, he was going to die. I told his family, I says, you got to bring him in now.
Wow.
And they were on the fence, but they ultimately they turned him in.
So what happened to Ming again? He ended up in
Ming went down to Ohio, I believe,
Oh, he
to
went
a
to Ohio.
preserve. They sent him to a preserve down there. There was a guy that followed this story, and when Ming died, he used to go down there and visit him.
How did Ming die? He got poisoned from the guy he bit?
Yeah, he bit that guy. He got rabies from that guy, from Aaron. That was the guy. So he died. It was some years later. He led a good life. I guess he died, and this
led
other
a
guy
good
liked
life.
him so much, he took donations, and they actually flew him up. I don't know if they cremated him and flew him up or what, but they buried him in Valhalla. There's a pet cemetery there with a big stone that says Ming the Tiger and all
We'll
this stuff.
check it
on
out. We'll
Yeah, I saw pictures of it. I probably will go one day to look at it. So that was probably the most wild story.
That you ever had?
Yeah, and when I say wild, I mean wild animal. You know. It was pretty. That was pretty. I mean, who's gonna ever think that would happen? It was a big tiger.
That
And
they don't
said
teach in the academy.
it used to, like, when it went to the bathroom, it would drip down through the walls sometimes.
Oh, my
And the
God.
downstairs says, "Oh yeah, well we had some stuff that stunk," but nobody said anything. And I know, like the project president there, she knew. She, I don't know if they realized how big it was, but because he said he had a tiger, he had a lion too, a lion cub, and that lion cub he got with the tiger together. and the lion ended up dying. And imagine you would have had a lion and a tiger in there. Then all you need is a bear. The whole circle of.
Holy shit! Imagine you would have saw a freaking lion in there also. What do you think intimidates you more?
Huh?
What's intimidating you more at that point? Probably the
They
tiger
both
still.
kill you.
Right?
I think the lion would be more, because the lion's going to be bigger, right?
It would be, right?
Big like mane.
Yeah, I guess so. Fuck, Ming would have got his ass kicked, I think, a couple times.
But how do you? I find it so hard to. And the
Grizzly
mother,
beds.
the family knew. The mother was there for part of the time with him. He had this thing for like 4 or 5 years, and the mother had been there, living there with him, and she ended up going out to Pennsylvania, and she was living there. But she knew. How do you just? I can't contemplate. It's your kid. You don't want to. But there comes a point in time.
Just so used to it, with the craziness.
Yeah, my son lives in. That's why she left, because he's living in the apartment in her apartment with a tiger.
Imagine fucking sleeping through the night with that thing.
Well, I mean, you could probably shut it in a room. I hope that's what he did, so at least he could sleep in peace. But who knows? He thought it was good with him. He had brought home a kitten. The kitten was in there. It was alive. He brought home a kitten, and that supposedly what triggered the tiger. When he brought home the kitten, he was playing with it, and the tiger lunged for it.
Got jealous.
And he got in the way, and it bit, and that's how he got bit. Supposedly that was the story. So,
wow,
just crazy. And then he accused us. We went into the apartment, right? The living room was stacked 5 feet tall with garbage, right? This guy had nothing. He doesn't work, anything. And he accused us of stealing $7,000. He owed rent for 2 years. I'm like, oh, what was that, your rent money that you're
saving you?
Just nonsense. And then he fought afterwards. They did a special. There's like a Nat Geo or History Channel. One of them did a story on this, the whole thing. They have him in there. And awesome. He tried to get the thing back. I'm like, he was trying to raise money so that he could have a preserve for the big cats. But he was crazy. He was nuts, So wow. He was insane. Yeah.
It's insane. Was he in the show Tiger King or whatever that
is? he should have went down there and worked for them.
That's right.
That's what he wanted to do. He loved them.
You retire in?
I retired in 2013, February 28th. Me and the Pope retired the same day.
There you go. That's a little bit of history.
Yeah, he called me and I said, "Listen, it's time, buddy." We both agreed. And then,
so you retire and then you get into real estate.
I got into real estate a couple of years before I retired. My mother-in-law was in real estate.
Yep.
My wife was a real estate attorney, so she was in real estate that way.
Of course.
And we had a friend of ours that was.
Worked at the closing of my house.
Yeah, so there you go. Yep. Probably on the. Did she do the? No, I don't. Yeah, well, I don't think I was. No, I wasn't with her the first one. I got with her later on. Yeah, she did your house in Armonk. Oop.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Armonk.
There'll be 3 guys there waiting for you when you get home. Yeah.
Remember that guy you smacked around back in '96?
He's been looking for you. So we had, and the guy that he wanted to get a house, and we were up in Yorktown, and he was a singer for a Latin group, like famous though, pretty famous. So I knew the guy that did stuff for him. He goes, that would be a nice place for Anthony. I says, really? It was one by my house, and it was like 1.4 million. So we made it happen. And I saw that check. I says, this is the business for me. I says, that was easy. Yeah. And I says, I'm used to either I was being a cop making overtime, but that was still check to check.
Right.
We never got a lump. I never got a lump sum. The only time you got a lump sum was a lawsuit or over police stuff, meaning joint lawsuit or retro.
Retro pay, yeah.
And they pretty much knocked out the retro quick with the zeros and all that nonsense.
Yep.
So I was like, boy, that's a big check. I says, I'm hooked. And it's not necessarily all about the money, but when you don't see money like that, the police department, you weren't seeing check.
Of course not.
You couldn't put. I had to take pension loans all the time to get something to put a deposit on something. It was a rough life financially. Last 4 or 5 years were good, but I'd say I should have stayed because I was actually rolling in money at that point.
Of course.
So anyway, I saw it. I liked it. So as soon as I retired, I waited like 6 months. I got out in February. I think September I started doing the real estate courses.
Where are you now? What company are you with?
Keller Williams.
Oh, you are with Keller.
Yeah,
still with us.
Realty Partners, Mayapack.
That's right. With Lou.
Lou Cardillo. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
But you had your own at one point, right?
So I could never, in my mind, justify giving my money to anybody else. I'm like, my wife is a broker automatic because she's an attorney. You get your broker license that way. My mother-in-law was working for an agency. I says, why do you want to do that? Come with us. So we put it together, and we started our own agency, and we did it for like 10 years. My mother-in-law, like 80 years old now, she don't want to,
Of course,
she doesn't want to do it anymore. And she did all the paperwork, again, go back to the police department days. I am not a paperwork guy.
Of course.
So the choice was that my wife runs it, and she's busy doing her own lawyer stuff, So I says, I can't do it. So ultimately, we made the decision after, I said, about 10 years, we just said, we're done. So we sold the business, and I talked to you about it, and you hooked me up over there with, and I went over there with him, and I've been doing that. I've only been there with him, I think,
A couple of years, right?
A couple of years, a year and a half, 2 years, yeah. It hasn't been that long, but it's still good, I mean, the market, it's been a seller's market since the day I got into it.
Yep.
And, people ask, what do you think? What's it going to do? And I was telling them 5 years ago, I'd say about a year or two, it's going to start turning around. And it never has. And even to this day, it hasn't. But I think other states, even Manhattan, which there's a lot of other reasons for Manhattan, but I think they're starting to see it could take 3 or 4 years to come to Westchester County where I work and, the affluent areas. I think it could take a lot more time to get to them. But it's starting, I think. And who knows? It might just be a blip and then it goes back.
Yeah.
You could roll a dice and
you never know what you're gonna get.
You don't know. You really don't know. I thought I knew a little bit as far as that goes, and I was, it's not I think, but I've been wrong the whole time. It's just been great for 30, because I do a lot of listings. I don't mind showing people I had a lot of listings, and listings are great. You sell them in 2 weeks, you're done. Very, very easy. And it's hard when you got a buyer because you're fighting with 10 other buyers. Everybody else, it's very difficult to be on the buyer end, and it's been that way for years. So I kind of focused on sellers. Not that I would turn away a buyer; it's fine, but you got to let them know. Look, the FHA, 3% down stuff, it's not going to work.
It's not working.
They got people coming in here with 20 to 50% down. They're looking for the quickest, easiest, no nonsense way to do it.
It wasn't like us when we were coming up buying houses.
Yep, exactly. When I bought my first house, it was you could do the FHA,
20% down.
And
I was buying investment properties when I first got off, and when I got into the real estate world, and I was buying them with 6% seller concession, getting money back at the table.
Yeah. Remember all?
Yeah. Buying houses
because it was a slower market then, and they needed to. People wanted to move stuff. They're willing to work and do different things.
So you were going in with 6% seller's concession, getting money. They were giving you money to close. So I was walking away with checks of $10,000, and then rentals, and then a couple of years later, turning those over and selling them, and crazy. I saw an interview this morning. It was interesting. Not to get into politics, but there was one with Donald Trump, and it was with Ellen DeGeneres, and they were talking. And at this time, I guess, Trump just started the TV show. And he said, I was walking down, and he was telling a story. There was one point in life where he was walking down the street with, he said, it's some female. And he said, you see that guy over there? And she said, that homeless guy? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that guy's worth $900 million more than me.
Yeah.
And she goes, what? He goes, yeah, I'm $900 million in the hole. And she goes, that guy doesn't have $900 million. He goes, no, but I'm short $900 million, so he's ahead of $900 million over me. And he said, but over time, what ended up happening is the real estate market did what it did, and he just had prime real estate and developments all over the place that turned into billions and billions of dollars. And I think at that time he was worth $8 billion, $9 billion at that time, which is what real estate did. Now, it didn't do it for me, but when me and Diana started buying, it was buy, sell every 2 years, buy, sell every 2 years, and just keep buying until we did it. Until we bought where we bought now, where we live, where you gave my address out before. Thank you. And then, we were able to, own that outright, basically, and raise our 2 beautiful kids there. I don't see kids this day. I feel bad for my kids. I feel bad for your kid. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to double their money every 2 years.
No, and it's going to be harder for them to get into their first place. But
Correct.
I'm going to help. I mean, I already know what's going to happen. It's not like with us. We were able to do it ourselves because you could put 3% down, and But now they're going to have a lot rougher time unless there's a huge collapse, a crash. But what? Even if there was a crash, it's going to lose probably 30%. Which, in the scheme of things, like mine doubled in how long? I've been there 15 years, or not even 12 years. It's doubled my home. Yeah. So
same thing with me. When we bought, we originally lost.
Yeah. When I sold a couple places, I lost. Yeah.
And then we ended up, because we stayed there. Now we we're not doubled. I don't think. I think we are doubled now. We're probably at that double place, but which is nice, you know. But we just looking at, we were talking about it, and I was like, you know, if we did buy something else, we'll just keep this and give this one to the kids.
Yeah.
You know,
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
You know, and you know, buying houses out of state. I don't think my kids want to move to Indiana.
No.
Anything like that, because that's what we're buying.
I'm going to put my kid on the lease, whatever I buy, so that if anything happens, and he just takes it. And I'll tell him, sell it, don't, you know. Or if there's a good market to rent it out, you know, so you have a monthly income. But I'll have zero mortgage on whatever I get. So, but yeah, I wouldn't expect him to.
So now you still into police work though?
Yeah. I went.
Let's finish this off real quick.
I was out a year, and I said, you know what? I said, well, I found out that you could be a part-time police officer, and I didn't know you could do that. And matter of fact, a friend that I went to high school with that was in the same academy class as us. She was, what were we? B. She was A squad, where she was a different squad, but same academy, and she went to the Bronx.
Okay.
And she lived by me, and that's why I was like, damn, I got Harlem. Everybody else got the Bronx. She was already retired and had a position in this part-time job. And when I found out about it, I was like, she's up there? I called her up. She says, you know, you got a job. You know, it was great. And I tell you what, I was so happy to get it. And I did that for like 4 or 5 years. And I opened up a restaurant in between. So I left to do the restaurant, and then I went back again. And I pretty much been there. I went to another department for a little while, but now I'm still there. There's a village of Brewster up in Putnam County.
Any other, is Pat, oh God, I can't remember his last name. Porteous. Is he up there too?
No Porteous.
You know
We
Pat?
no, I've
Two,
heard the
three?
name. Yeah, he's not there. We have a
Great
lot
guy.
of NYPD. We got Yonkers guys. We got one of the Putnam County Sheriff's guys with us. But the majority is Yonkers and NYPD that work there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a couple little like cast-offs from other stuff, you know. But and it's good. There's like 26 of us, and we chop it up. I do 2 days a week, steady, and then there's always 1, 2, 3 days if you want to do it. There's people giving up their tours, you know. But it's good. It's a nice little. I enjoyed the city, right? And now in my old age, I really enjoy this because everybody's nice to you. You know, you don't get the nonsense. Nobody's fighting with you. You know, I mean, I've been there 12 years. I might have had to go hands-on twice.
Is that it? Wow.
Yeah, so that's good. You
Do you
know?
like Barney Fife up there?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. There's another guy. I tell him, I'm like, we went to the gun range. I says, who's going to give him his one bullet? Give him his bullet.
Give him his bullet.
I says, that's all you get is one.
Dave, thanks for coming in, man. This was great. This went by way too fast. It was a quick hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is. Thanks for coming in. Great job, brother.
Good to see you, Rich.